bunch of students here who will graduate by then and will be looking for a job.
All right, Representative Bill Faison from Orange County. It is a very hot day in Reynolds Coliseum.
It is that.
You went right along with everything Obama had to say today. Jobs, jobs, jobs. That's what you talked about yesterday. That's what you talked about last week. How does this meeting with Obama today relate to what you were talking about last week?
We have got to put our people back to work. The problem that we have is people are unemployed. Without having a job, they can't make the mortgage payment, they can't send the child to college, they can't pay the car payment. They are decimated. And we've got 1 out of 10 people in our state who are in that situation, and that's just on the average. You know, in some areas of our state, the unemployment rate's 14 to 17%. And it's not just in the small, rural, poor counties. It's also high unemployment in places like Winston-Salem. We've got to change that, and we can. What I did is present a jobs bill this week, which does the following. It cuts the penny sales tax by 30%, and yet manages to hire back every single state employee who was fired as a result of this budget. There's 6,455 of them who lost their job. We can put them all back to work, and it's not just state employees. There were cuts to Medicaid and S-CHIP that resulted in over 15,000 private sector job losses. There are another over 14,000 private sector job losses as a result of the general budget cuts. We can put them all back in place. That's almost 40,000 jobs with the power of 7/10 of a penny. Folks support that. They want to help out their neighbors. And paying 7 cents out of every $10 purchased to make sure your neighbors have a job, they've got a place to sleep, they can get to work, and their kids go to school. People are glad to help out their friends and neighbors that way. But we can do more. Part of what I proposed was to provide a tax incentive to small business people, folks with less than 20 employees. There are 155,000 of them in our state. We can give enough incentive for each one of them to hire an employee, and you know how we can do it? We can close 40% of the tax loopholes that we have in North Carolina. In 2005, the Revenue Department did a study. They found that we have $5 billion in tax loopholes. In 2009, they updated that study and found we had $5.8 billion in tax loopholes, and that in 2005, 65% of the C-Corps filed a tax return owing no taxes at all. Now, that's not right. And what we can do is close up 40% of those loopholes and put 155,000 people back to work. We can lower our unemployment rate from 10.1% to under 6%. We can fix this, we ought to fix this, and we ought to get about the job. And I'm pleased with what the President's doing. He's doing it at a national level, but you know what? We can fix our problems in North Carolina as well. We have a jobs proposal that's simple, practical, makes common sense, and we ought to implement it.
Let me ask you some concerns that I've talked with some Democrats today. They're saying that 2 years ago, the Republicans campaigned on jobs, 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 but yet they have yet to see one bill come out of the House or the Senate that even approached jobs. Do you have a comment on that?
Well, absolutely. The Republicans presented what they said was their jobs bill. And on the floor of the House, a Republican legislator stood up and said, this is the centerpiece of our jobs bill. And you know what it is? It's a tax deduction for some businesses that could be worth $3,500. Now, just who do you expect is going to get employed for $3,500? You can't even pay the benefits associated with the job. It was the silliest, most ridiculous, most disappointing thing I've ever seen, and an absolute, total, complete breach and break of the promise they made to the people.
All right, now let me ask you this. Now, just talking to some people in the crowd, they're talking that for the first time since Reconstruction, we have a Republican House and a Republican Senate in North Carolina. They're saying that even if that $900 billion, some of that trickles into eastern North Carolina, that the Republicans are going to have control over that, and it's not going to go where the Obama administration thinks it should go, or where it should go to create jobs. It's going to go into the Republican coffers. That's what some of the people here today think.
Well, I can tell you this. I have been I cannot imagine being more disappointed than in what the Republicans came here and did. They promised us a jobs agenda and did not give us one. They promised us no new taxes, and they raised fees by over $100 million, and fees are just another form of taxes. They promised us that they were going to have a middle-of-the-road, common sense, help people agenda, and they had anything but. They had a right-wing social agenda intended to hurt folks, and they succeeded. They had an agenda intended to help big business and only big business, and they succeeded. They've been a colossal failure, and we need to fix this.
In Eastern North Carolina, let's just look, are you better off 2 years ago? Are you better off now than you were 2 years ago? And let's just look at Orange County. You've got almost 6% of the teachers that were there 2 years ago are not in Orange County public schools now.
And we have more students.
Yes, absolutely. And yet you're looking at Chapel Hill, which is in Orange County. That's one of the more wealthier parts of North Carolina. Where's the disconnect there?
Well, there's always been a disconnect in the rural area where I live and in Chapel Hill.
No, but you would think if it was going to happen anywhere, it would happen in Chapel Hill.
Well, that's true, but you know, most of the employment in Chapel Hill is the university. And the university's been getting cuts as a result of the budget, huge cuts. In fact, they just laid off another 3,000 employees recently. I think it's 3,034 employees total they've laid off, something over 300 of them fairly recently. And I don't know whether you're aware of it or not, but there are about 400 more jobs getting ready to be lost as a result of this budget out of DOT, although there's more work than the people who are there can do, which means that the work on our roads and our infrastructure is getting ready to get worse. We are headed a bad way. We are headed in the wrong direction. We've got to turn this around, and we can fix this, but we've got to take some hard choices, and one of those is we got to use good sense and help each other. And one of the ways to help each other is by cutting that penny sales tax by 30% and putting our people back to work, both in the public sector, but even more overwhelmingly in the private sector.